Good evening, everyone. A teachable moment, a teachable moment is an honest moment. Talk to a coach, or a mom or dad, a teacher. So a teachable moment is an honest moment. We'll unfold that from the gospel, but let's review and challenge ourselves with regards to the gospel. Now, I don't have anything to review last week because I was on vacation with my family. I do hope that all of you have had a chance to get away, whether it's a staycation or a vacation, some sort of respite for yourselves. Very important. We even hear it in the gospel. Okay, they were so busy that they got into a boat to try and get away to a deserted place. So it's very important, certainly in Genesis. Okay, God rested on the seventh day. He didn't need a rest, but He was telling us that we do. So very important that we take that weekly and even seasonally. So I hope that you did have some time to get away and to rest. A few weeks ago, we looked at breaking the silence. We were talking about that moment where Jesus was interrupted by the public servant who had a daughter that was dying. And just when he was about to ask, the other individuals came and said, please don't bother the master, she's dead. So, and the silence there is broken by Christ Himself, who says, do not be afraid, just have faith. So, and in that, He comes to the little girl and He says, Talitha cum, which means, little girl, get up. And He raises her from the dead. Now, He's not doing that so that he shows that He's going to show up in every instance of somebody dying to raise them from the dead. He is showing that He has the power to bring us back to life. It's very important that we have a disposition that we are a resurrection people. That we believe in the resurrection of the dead. It's not that we're just not a spirit trapped in a body, and that when we die, well, then we'll be free. Okay, survey says, okay, that is not Catholic theology. Our disposition as Catholics is based on the revelation of Jesus Christ. And He said, if you want to live, then lay down your life. And indeed, in laying down our life, we will find it. But here specifically, He shows that He has the power over death itself. And it's going to be very important. The point that I made was that we need to have a very clear understanding with regards to God's perfect will and His permissive will. The reason why is because when something bad happens, what is our tendency related to concupiscence? When something bad happens to you, what do? Okay, you did this. So 3 weeks ago when I gave this homily, right after this Mass, somebody got in their car, wouldn't start. He's like, Lord, my battery's dead. I'm coming to Mass. What are you doing? All right, you can kind of see how that happens. Maybe we've cultivated a good habit that we don't really do that generally. But then, when we're worn down a little bit, when we get tired, see if we don't do that. See if we don't, when something bad happens, we say that it's God's fault. So, God's perfect will was for us to be completely in communion with Him with no disorder in the world. The reality is that our first parents chose to be like God, but without Him. So I'm going to get here on my own way rather than following God. So, in fact, we have disorder in the world. And so most of the time we're going to be working with God's permissive will. So He has a perfect will for us, and that will not be thwarted. But very often we're going to deal with things that happen that are not His perfect will. And there are going to be difficult things and disordered things. So if we have a clear understanding of that already, then we're going to spend less time doing this and more time approaching Him from a standpoint of faith. We need to break the silence of our own hearts. What is it? It might not just be the frustration of a car not starting. Maybe it's something in the past that we haven't really dealt with, that we might even have a resentment towards the Lord, that we need to really get in touch with and be honest with Him. So break the silence. It really goes along with the next week where when Jesus came to His hometown, He couldn't do anything great. Why? Because they approached Him from a standpoint of familiarity rather than the standpoint of faith. So when I say faith, I'm not talking, all right, well, I'll just take it on faith, the blind step. That's not the faith that the church talks about. So faith that the church talks about is a supernatural capacity to know God given to us in baptism. So it's a supernatural light. I know it through reason. I can see it. I understand it. That's the natural light of reason. The supernatural light of faith means we know it in a way that's consistent with reason, but is different. Have you had an encounter with the living God? Were you overwhelmed by an experience of peace or filled with an experience of love? And you say, yeah, I do. I have had an encounter with the living God. That's an experience of faith. And that's what God wants us to remember when we're approaching Him with a difficulty or a challenge. There were so many people that were so familiar with Him, the Scripture said He could not do any great work there. He wants to do great works in each one of our lives. Can't do it unless we approach Him from a standpoint of faith. Now, we get to today. So a teachable moment is an honest moment. When I say honest, I'm talking about humility. Humility is the simple acknowledgement of the truth about ourselves. And there, it's just simply saying, I need you, Lord. I need you. False humility, I can't do it. I can't do that. So pride, I don't need you at all, Lord. I got this. But somewhere in between, there's the simple acknowledgement of the truth about ourselves. I do need you, and I can do it with your help. So the Lord is really interesting, especially when I'm thinking that I just went on vacation. So here He's so busy that they can't even eat. And so He gathers His apostles together. He gets them on the boat. He says, we're going to the beach. And He gets there. It would be like all of you finding out the beach that I went with my family. You all got into your cars, you drove there, and I got there, I got out, and there you were. And I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh my gosh, you found me. The Scriptures say that He was moved. The Greek actually says that there was like a movement within Him, a physical movement that He was, that this pity, this anguish, He really connected with them. Why? Because they were in that standpoint of humility. That they needed Him and they wanted Him to talk to them. A couple of those instances happened this week. One, it just gives me an opportunity to thank all those that were involved with the Vacation Bible School. All right, we had well over 100 kids at our Vacation Bible School. It was a great success. They were able to really communicate some fundamentals of the faith. They had a great time as well. But our grade school kids and our high school kids really stepped forward. It was a wonderful moment. They gave me an opportunity at the end of the fourth day I came in, and I said, if you are thankful, and that's what I was trying to do, is to cultivate a sense of thankfulness in them. If you are thankful for all the adults that all the things that they've done with you and taught you about God this week, I want you to scream as loud as you can. That was a mistake. Okay, all right. And they screamed so loud, I did end up covering my ears. A lot of the other kids did too, and the rafters were shaking. But it gave me a moment to draw them in, and then I said, repeat after me. Thank you. And they all did. Every single one. I don't know if they sing or not, but they all sang. It was beautiful. Thank you for giving to the Lord. And they all just sang that. And I said, I want you to sing that for your parents. Or at least go home and thank them. But it was interesting, as I looked out in this vast crowd of children, there wasn't a sense of, I can't do that. And there wasn't this instance of, I don't need you. The disposition was just, they were there. A sense of humility. It was beautiful. Now, that's one sense. The other difficulty, but really a humble moment, was yesterday. So at Sacred Heart of Mary, we had a retreat for the Emmaus Ministry for grieving parents. So this was a retreat for parents who have had children who have died. And there, it was an interesting disposition with these parents because they were there and it was almost like they were saying, I don't know if I can. See, the greatest pain that anyone can experience in this life is to lose a child. I know that not out of experience, but with walking with parents who have had children die. And so their dispositions, I don't know if I can. And then there's another sense of disposition is that I know that I need you, but wait a minute, I don't know if I need you. You can kind of understand that with the pain. Do I need you? I don't know if I do. So they're fighting these two elements, but yet they were there. They were there. And so this sense of humility. And there's a teachable moment. Not me teaching them or me teaching you, but God teaching us. The simple acknowledgement of the truth about ourselves. When we understand, yes, Lord, I need you. Remember when I was talking about resurrection and how important that is? By the way, you and I are all ambassadors for the revelation of Jesus Christ, for Jesus Christ himself. And there are many parents who have had children die. And I can't reach all of them. But we can. And the first thing that I would say is that don't say too much. Say, I love you, and just spend time with them. Because when we start to try and say too much, we say the wrong things. That's the first thing that I would say. The second thing is that we are, in fact, a resurrection people. That is to say, there is more to life than this world. And if you can simply say that, and then the next step is, and you will see your child again. Bodily. So in the general resurrection, we receive a glorified body. St. Thomas Aquinas says probably around 33. Okay, I'm hoping for 24. All right. So, but that means that an infant that dies then also has intellect, will, and a mature body. So much so that that child will run to its parent. And you can say this to them. They will hear that child say, Dad, Dad, I've been praying for you your whole life. Remember that time where you felt like I was really present? It was me. And I was praying for you the whole time. Mom, do you remember? Okay, this is not a mental gymnastic. This is the revelation of Jesus Christ. I am the resurrection and the life. And so when we come to him in that simple acknowledgement of the truth about ourselves, I need you. There is a teachable moment. And there we will learn and advance down the path of greatness. Let us